Hello and welcome to this event. I am really sorry that I can't be there with you for the whole of the day. It is a most important event and I would be very pleased indeed to be joining you. As it's possibly known, I've been combating domestic abuse in being an MP, being a barrister, being the Police and Crime Commissioner for quite a considerable time, and of course the emphasis has always been, and rightly so by those who brought domestic abuse to the forefront, about protecting the victim, about protecting her, about getting her away, about prosecution, about after the event counselling and support to get her back into the position from which she's been undermined by that domestic abuse behaviour. And that's rightly so, and nothing that we're doing in this pilot is detracting in the slightest from that. Indeed, the two run together. But there are three things I think that have made us decide we have to work along the tack where we're working now, and we really welcome your input. The first is the understanding, of course, that unless you tackle the causes of domestic abuse, i.e. perpetration of it, then you will always be picking up the pieces, and it will continue. Secondly, the Istanbul Convention requires the government, and they will have to ratify that shortly, to produce programmes to change the behaviour of perpetrators, and so there's an international obligation to do exactly that. And thirdly, although there have been well-known historic doubts about the value of perpetrator programmes, Project Mirabel, which reported in January of last year, gave us some significant reassurance that those programmes can work effectively, especially if they are respect-approved ones which have work with the victim as well as the perpetrator running side by side. So three reasons why, when the Police Innovation Fund opened for bids last year, we decided to bid for the MATAC project with which you've assisted us. So the idea being that, first of all, without anybody making a complaint, because we all know how hard it is for someone to make a complaint, the tentacles that the MATAC can get to can bring in to its remit a large number of very serious perpetrators indeed. Actually, Northumbria Police are aware of something like 4,900 serial perpetrators of domestic abuse, which is what this project is to tackle. And of those, less than 5,000 serial perpetrators, half of the 29,000 phone calls that come into Northumbria Police about domestic abuse every year come from. So that less than 5,000 people brings half of the reported domestic abuse problem to the forefront. So clearly, from the point of view of police time, the point of view of the suffering of people who are the victims of these people, and from the point of view of economy and dealing with the matter firmly, we have to look at that sector, and so that is what we're doing. So much of the perpetrators come from the Northumbria Police, but we cast our net much wider. The MATAC coordinators, with which you're quite now conversant, try to work out a one-to-one, as it were, basis, a programme which will deal with the perpetrator, get them on a respect-approved course if you can, or into something like integrated offender management or disruption at the other end, or whatever it takes, including, of course, the criminal justice system. But part of this is an understanding that our partners have helped us too, that the criminal justice system is not always going to be the answer. Much as we labour mightily, and Northumbria Police labour mightily to become very, 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 very good at dealing with domestic abuse, not everybody wants to go through a criminal justice solution, so there will be needs to stop it in other ways. But what it was easy to think historically would happen, namely you would lock the perpetrator up. So all those combinations make this a very, very interesting and capable of being an extremely important project for us to have embarked upon with yourselves. And the evaluation at this stage, which I have of course read, is pretty positive, but it points us into some directions where we can really make improvements as well. Now, granted that we're really blazing a trail here, it is good to pause at this point and take a whole day for reflection to look at how we can make sure we finely tuned and perfected what looks like something that could be a really, really useful tool in the much wider world of nationally, as it were, dealing with domestic abuse. So thank you again for coming. One thing I would like to add is that we did go to the trouble of discussing and determining that there ought to be a children's worker attached to each of the perpetrator programs that function, and we would very much value your opinion about that. We think that children are capable of being the hidden victims of domestic abuse, and we felt that there was a niche place for them in all of this. But that, in addition to your views about the MATAC as an overall system and whether we're hitting the right buttons with it all, I would welcome in particular very much. So once again, thank you very much for coming. I'm sorry I can't be there, and I look with great interest to what your day of deliberations will produce for us so that we can take this great experiment forward. Thank you.